Hi, this is Eric from Cafe Watercolor. Welcome to another painting demo. Today is a special one. I'm painting my lovely wife and I'm really happy to share the process with you. It's been a while since I painted my wife actually, and I took this photo a while back. She got this dress that she really likes. We end up returning the dress because she couldn't really find an occasion for this, even though we both really like it. Anyway, so before she returns it, I told her that, well, you might as well wear that and I will take some photos for reference and maybe I'll paint it. So we did. I took this photo and I decided to paint this one. Now I've painted my wife many times already, but never really get tired of it. I painted her since we were dating way back when I was still in art college, to a point that my art instructor told me that I should stop painting her and try something else. So even though I did paint different things, I still go back to her. She is definitely my comfort subject. Whenever I paint her, I feel really happy. She's definitely my muse. That being said, I still start with a drawing when I paint her. Even though I am really familiar with how she looks, I see her every day. I think it's still very important that I spend some time to do the proper drawing and really study her face and really look at her very carefully. I said before that doing portrait is a very intimate experience because you need to look at the person and study the person very closely. So drawing and painting my wife is definitely a very personal and intimate experience for me. And I'm always trying to do better to capture her beauty. So at the drawing stage, you still have the freedom to erase and change things. So try not to rush through because it is very important that you get the structure of the face, the proportion, and the placement of the features relatively accurate. I don't do portrait with grid. I want to do it by just eyeballing it. So my drawing and painting never look exactly like the photo. To me, that is never the goal. The goal is to capture the essence of the person. Still, it's very important to have proper alignment of the facial feature, proper placement and proportion. So even though it's not going to look exactly like the photo, it still look relatively like the person that you are trying to draw or paint. So I'm pretty much done with the line drawing. I erase a little bit of the construction line to make the drawing a little bit cleaner. I clean my palette because I want some nice clean color for the skin tone. So the skin tone is very basic. It's a mixture of cadmium red, cadmium orange, and a little bit of cadmium yellow. So the first wash, use a little bit more water while I do want some color to retain, but you want to use enough water so it flows pretty well because you want to have a nice, clean, consistent wash. Before the wash is dry, you can add a little bit more color and you can squeeze out the moisture on your brush to lift some of the paint to have a little bit of soft light. The key is to have a nice, clean, consistent wash for the first wash. I go ahead and start to give some colors for the hair. Now I am going to come back and add some more darker color. So this is just to give it a base. And since the wash is still a little bit damp, a little bit moist, I decided to do some wet onto wet on it. This is a little bit risky because the paper is damp. So if you have too much moisture on your brush, it will back run and create cauliflower edges. So it's very important that you control the wetness on your brush and have enough paint in your mixture. And by the way, it is raining really hard right now. That's why you're hearing the rain sound. The rain's hitting my skylight in my tiny house studio, so there's no way I can block those noise out. So hopefully this will just be a background noise for you. Now I'm doing the first wash for her dress. So it's mostly cerulean blue with a touch of cobalt turquoise. And I use a smaller brush and start to just indicate some details around the collar area. Now there's some bee gather on the bottom, so I try to have those drip down to create some interesting effect. And now I'm trying to do some wet onto wet and also add a little bit of water, lift some paint, some basic value variations. Now the wash on the face is dry, so now I can start to paint her facial features and also give it a little bit more definition on the structure. So start with the corner of the eye and work my way into the iris. And there's still quite a bit of wetness here actually, so it'll be easy for me to connect shapes. In terms of the color, I still pretty much use the same color. So cadmium orange, cadmium red, and maybe a little bit of burnt sienna just to make the color just a little bit darker. But instead of thinking about dark colors, think less transparent. Because if you try to mix a color that is too dark, it's very easy to become dirty. And it's very important to remember you are painting the structure of the face instead of doing drawings, painting outlines. Now I'm painting some bottom structure of the nose, wing of the nose, the base of the nose, and also connect that to a little bit of the soft shadow on the right. And as soon as I painted the bottom structure of the nose starting to pop out. Moving down to her lips. Now her lips are loosely defined. You don't want to make the lips too obvious because it will feel like the person is wearing lipstick. My wife definitely didn't put any makeup on that day, but even if the person has a makeup, you try to make it look natural. You try to make that feature belong to the face. If you make any feature pops out too much, it's going to look like somebody put a sticker on that face. So I paint the structure of the cheekbone, connect that to her chin, connect that to the shadow, the soft shadow under her chin on her neck. So with the second layer in, you can definitely feel the structure and the sense of lighting. Now there are going to be a few areas that I still need to adjust and add, but I will wait for the second wash to dry. And now I am painting the hair a little bit more, adding some dark color. This will help to define the silhouette of her face and also give some more depth for the hair. So for the hair, I usually don't want to paint a flat color. So I will add a little bit different colors, and I'll also add some value variations as well. There's some areas that will be a little bit darker, some a little bit lighter. Overall, I want to feel there is some sense of air in between because it is not a landscape, it is not a scenery, so I need to kind of artificially create depths. So I'm painting the third layer, really hitting some darks to her facial feature, makes her eyes pops out a little bit more. So I'm adding some dark, adding some shadows under the eyelid, adding some dark to the pupil and the iris. And also the bottom of the nose, loosely define the nostril. The nostrils are formed by structure. Don't just paint two black dots there. That's not going to look good at all. So down to her lips, I paint a few dark areas, some dark shapes, and I connect them with a damp brush. So it's very important that you don't start to paint lines. Lines are going to make the painting flat, so try to avoid that. So here I add a little bit dark on her dimple. I want to emphasize her dimple a little bit. Whenever she smiles, she has a dimple on her left cheek. It's very, very cute, so I definitely want to keep that in. So even though my painting doesn't look exactly like the photo, I try to capture the character on her face. So when people see this painting, they can still recognize it's her. So again, adding some more detail on their lips. And just darken some of the areas. Now moving on to the hair. I like to add some cerulean blue from Mission Gold on the top of the hair. It's sort of become my signature in a weird way just because I really like that blue color. And I feel like hair is a very good place to play the color a little bit more because as long as the value is right, you can have interesting colors. So I'm using a smaller brush, trying to get some graphic quality to the hair strand. Some wet onto wet, add more values and volume on the hair. So here I'm adding a little bit of the shadow on the color of her dress. So this will hint the detail very well. It will show that dimensionality without trying to paint every single loops, every single detail on her dress. And that's again the power of the visual language. Give some shadow to her necklace. And just add a little bit more dark. Since it's wet onto wet, the wash will dry a little bit lighter. So I will add some dark before it is completely dry, so it will retain some more darkness. And I can also use that to define the structure of her face, give it some layering. So now I'm starting to paint her dress and just a little bit more detail, give it some more forms and shape, some wrinkles and fold. So it's mostly I just paint some dark shape and I'll soften some of the edges with a clean damp brush. And with those simple value shapes, simple shadow shapes, you start to see the structure of her dress. And that's all we really need. We don't need some crazy details and realistic render. That's not what this painting is about, at least for me. So adding some dark with a smaller brush. There's a little bit of a cutout holes on her sleeve. So I want to suggest that with darker skin tone and a little bit darker values. Fixing the silhouette of her face just a little bit more. And now I'm starting to make some color for the background. So I think background is still pretty important for this portrait because I want some sense of space in the back. I keep the background very light and very undefined, but this feels a little bit less harsh because if I leave the background completely unpainted, it'll feel like the person is a cutout. A little bit of background creates some sense of space. Now I'm erasing some pencil lines and we are finished. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy the process of this painting as much as I enjoy painting it. My wife's definitely happy with this painting, so I think that's all that matters. This is Eric from Cafe Watercolor. Hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you next time.